In 410 CE, a barbarian army sacked Rome, the first time in 800 years. But here's the strange part. Alaric and his Visigoths had been wandering Roman territory for 20 years before they did it. Where was the Roman army? The empire spent half its budget on the military, the legions that once conquered the known world, and yet silence. The army that consumed so much imperial treasure is curiously absent from 5th century history. The answer isn't that the army disappeared, it's far more disturbing. The army didn't lose to the invaders, it became them. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to the recruitment crisis of the 4th century, when Rome made a series of practical decisions that would ultimately dissolve the distinction between defender and invader. By the 4th century, Rome faced a recruitment crisis, population decline, military life becoming unattractive, citizens unwilling to serve, the causes are debated, but the result was clear. The twin pillars of empire, army, and taxation were both straining. Rome's solution seemed logical: hire barbarians, and this sounds counterintuitive, hiring potential enemies as soldiers, but empires often avoid using their own manpower. The British used Gurkhas in India. The best soldiers are often those who have something to prove. Individual barbarian recruits had served in Roman armies for centuries. The new approach was different. Entire barbarian groups would serve as allied armies. This was the Federati System, federated allied troops serving under treaty. Federati weren't individual recruits assimilating into Roman units. They were whole tribes maintaining their identity, their commanders, their loyalty structures. In the 370s, the Visigoths asked to cross the Danube as Federati. Why were they moving? Pressure from the Huns, perception of Roman weakness, or simply hunger? Rome agreed, but Roman officials proved incompetent at feeding and supplying them. Starving Federati became rebellious Federati. Emperor Valens personally led an army to suppress them. At the Battle of Adrianople in 378, the Visigoths killed Valens and destroyed his army. Adrianople was shocking. A Roman emperor killed in battle, his army annihilated, but it wasn't immediately fatal. The Eastern Empire survived. The real danger was what came next. Rather than expel the Visigoths, Rome officially recognized them. The settlement of 382 allowed them to remain in the Balkans as Federati. They served as reasonably useful troops through the 380s and 390s. The precedent was set: defeat Rome, then join Rome. Each individual decision made sense. Hiring barbarians was practical. Settling them after defeat avoided more bloodshed, and then the barbarians didn't just fill the ranks, they took command. The army was increasingly commanded by barbarian generals holding the title Magistri Militum, master of the soldiers. These men held more real power than the emperors they served, but they faced a crucial limitation: they couldn't become emperor themselves. Wrong ethnicity, right? Initially wrong religion, so they ruled through emperors or behind them. Consider the two most powerful men in the Roman world around 400 CE. Stilicho, a Vandal, Magistri Militum of the West, de facto ruler of the Western Empire. Alaric, a Visigoth, also Magistri Militum, leading the same Visigoths from Adrianople. Both barbarians, both commanding Roman armies, both competing for power within the Roman system. They weren't invaders, they were rival Roman generals who happened to be barbarian. The Western emperors understood their vulnerability. They abandoned Milan, too exposed to armies they couldn't control. They relocated to Ravenna, surrounded by marshes. Impossible for a barbarian army to siege. Think about what this means. The emperor hiding in a swamp from his own generals. Ravenna becomes the last capital of the Western Roman Empire. Not Rome, the eternal city, not Milan, the administrative center. A swamp fortress chosen for one reason: the emperor's own army couldn't reach him there. The physical manifestation of imperial impotence, the man with the title cowering from the man with the power. In 408, the paranoid Western emperor executed Stilicho. So with his Vandal rival gone, Alaric had no one to stop him. In 410, he invaded and plundered Rome. Augustine, writing in North Africa, was so shaken he wrote City of God in response, a theological reckoning with how the eternal city could fall. But remember, Alaric wasn't an outside invader. He had been wandering Roman territory for 2 decades. He wasn't breaking in. He was already inside. He was a Roman general who'd been denied his due, his salary, his recognition, his place in the system he'd served. So where was the Roman army when Alaric sacked Rome? You're looking at it. Alaric was the Roman army. This is the disturbing truth. The Roman army didn't disappear. It didn't lose to barbarians in pitched battles. It became barbarian. 2 possibilities exist for what happened to Rome's military. First, it vanished, consumed treasure, but provided nothing. Second, it became indistinguishable from the invaders. The second is more accurate. The soldiers who sacked Rome in 410 had Roman titles, Roman pay, Roman equipment. They just weren't Roman anymore, or rather, Roman had stopped meaning anything. Right? This isn't just ancient history, it's a pattern of institutional decay. When you outsource your core functions, you eventually lose control of them. When the people running your institutions don't share your institution's values, the institution transforms. The Roman army didn't betray Rome, it just stopped being Roman. The Federati System was efficient, barbarian generals were effective. Each decision made sense in isolation. Hire the best soldiers available, promote the most capable commanders, settle defeated enemies rather than fight endless wars. Rational choices, everyone. And then one day, there was no Roman army left, just barbarians with Roman titles. The Romans never saw it coming because the transformation was gradual, no single moment of betrayal, no dramatic defeat, just a slow dissolution of meaning. What does Roman mean when the army is Gothic? What does defender mean when the defender and the threat are the same people? What does empire mean when the emperor hides in a swamp? These questions apply beyond Rome. What modern institutions might be undergoing similar transformations? When does pragmatic adaptation become existential transformation? The line is invisible until you've crossed it. By then, the institution you're meant to preserve exists only in name. Rome didn't fall to barbarians. Rome became barbarian. The army didn't lose. It transformed. The empire didn't collapse. It dissolved from within. The sack of Rome in 410 wasn't a foreign invasion. It was a Roman general collecting what he was owed, using Roman troops, operating within a Roman system that had simply stopped being Roman. The fall of Rome wasn't a conquest. It was a change of management that no one noticed until it was complete.